Is A.J. Edmondson here, and then followed by John Augustine?
Thank you, Mayor and fellow council members. I know it's late. I'll try to make this quick. I'm a resident of the city of Phoenix. I live in District 1, and I'm a retired Phoenix Police Department lieutenant, 30-year veteran. I know that from a financial perspective, 1.6% is owed to these hardworking men and women. That was taken in 2010. I was still in the department when that happened. You combine the additional percentages you want to take away, and you're amounting to over a 4% cut in pay in the last 4 years. And I look at this contract, and I'm just trying to figure out, as far as, the cut in pay, but I'm not seeing a reduction in job duties or risks or sacrifices. As a matter of fact, our officers' jobs have gotten much more demanding. And Chief Garcia, the number I heard was 540 vacancies. 523, 540. It really doesn't matter. The 5th or 6th largest city in the country is embarrassingly running our department day in and day out, night after night, approximately over 20% understaffed citywide. I'm just going to throw this away. I'll just talk to you guys. Can I talk to my council? I'm going to talk to my council. The last few years that I was on the department, I saw personnel shortages become absolutely critically ridiculous. When I retired, my investigative squads that were slated for 10 to 12 detectives were down to 5, 6, 7 detectives. It was beyond ridiculous. It was pathetic. And in the last 3 years, it has gotten nothing but worse citywide around this department. And in my 30 years, 26 officers made the ultimate sacrifice. People have died since then. And we know as officers, we have a dangerous job. We have a dangerous profession. We know there are going to be serious injuries. We know there are going to be officers that are going to make the ultimate sacrifice. And unfortunately, we know good people are going to die. But the bottom line is, we know that, we accept it. What we can't accept is knowing that we have high-level members of our own city government that don't back us, that don't support us, and that don't appreciate us. Now, I know there's some members of the council that do. They get it. I understand that. I appreciate it. And I'm trying to be professional as possible. I'm not trying to raise my voice. But I think there's a couple of folks that might not quite understand or comprehend just how dangerous in the last couple of 3 years it has gotten for our officers. And we have currently precinct stations that are embarrassingly, ridiculously understaffed. We have squads that are understaffed. We have large, violent crime scenes being held down by 3 and 4 officers when there should be 12 to 15 officers out there. We have officers being dispatched to violent hot calls with little or no backup. We're having more aggravated assaults on our officers, more serious injuries, and of course we know more deaths. And the bottom line is, folks, they say the sweetest things when we wind up in wheelchairs and flag-draped caskets. But the bottom line is, it's action over words. Simply put, it's action over words. Guys, you are our civic leaders. Now, more than never, we need to show these people some love and some respect. Now, more than ever, we need to show them we support them. And please, 523, 540 full-time positions you're not paying for, the risks they take on a daily, nightly basis, and what they ask for, it's a pittance. It would be a nationwide embarrassment if other agencies across the country knew of this. I apologize for the raised voice. The hour is late. I know we're all tired. The bottom line is we need to step up to the plate. We need to respect these people. We need to give them what they deserve. And for Pete's sake, we need to put our money where our mouths are. Do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Augustine. Mr. Edmondson, excuse me, and then Mr. Augustine is next. Good to see you.
Hi, my name is John Augustine, Mayor and Council. I'm a resident of the City of Phoenix, District 6. I'm a retired Phoenix police officer. I'm also the president of the Association of Retired Phoenix Officers. We have 800 members. We represent over 20,000 years of service to the City of Phoenix. We're proud of the legacy that we left here. We're proud of the standards we left. We're proud of the professionalism that we had. We're also very proud of the officers that serve today. We're proud of the service that they give. It's high-quality service. We know what they do. On April the 8th, not knowing that I would ever be here in this situation, our members recognized, and by a unanimous vote of the members present, wanted to issue a commendation, which is a police term, to the officers who are currently serving. We wanted to tell them how proud we are of them, that they're keeping up with the standards, with the high level of professionalism under such adverse circumstances. We are very proud of them. We're also saddened, quite frankly, by the situations that are occurring, and particularly here. We think we have a fact-finding situation that maybe can resolve a deadlock that exists here. Maybe the easiest way out, because it's not much of a win for these folks, because they're still not going to get back to being whole from where they were a few years ago, but at least is consistent with the circumstances that are being presented to you at the City Council and Mr. Mayor. So my suggestion, my request is that you go with the fact finder. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Josh Champion, and one is your guardian, followed by John Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Stanton, council members. My name is Josh Champion. I've been a police officer for just under 17 years. In the last approximately 6 years, I've been assigned as a homicide detective. I want to thank Vice Mayor Waring, Councilman DeCiccio, Councilman Nowakowski for the commitment last week to vote no on the current offer by the new city manager, regardless of the reasons. I hope at least 2 of your colleagues will vote no along with you. Along with the courage to vote no, I hope you will follow the recommendations of the independent fact finder, or at least restore what was promised to us years ago. Whether the council is aware or not, the Phoenix Police Department is in a dire situation. Not only are we down 520 to 540 officers, which is 500 officers less than we were at our peak about a half-decade ago. We have not hired any officers in approximately 6 years and have no plans for significant hiring for at least another year, if not longer. The shortage of officers, along with rising crime rates, has emboldened criminals to assault and kill our officers. As of today, there is an officer-involved shooting, on average, every 8 days, including one this last weekend. A current estimate of sworn officers, rookie to chief, is approximately 2,860 officers. With a 2013 population estimate for the city of Phoenix of 1,488,750, that leaves only a ratio of approximately 1.92 officers per every 1,000 residents, not all of which are first responders, which by last estimates I could find is by far the lowest ratio of officers to citizens of the top 6 largest cities in the United States. Plans have been talked about hiring 15 new officers, potentially all lateral transfers from other agencies. Unfortunately, by December 31st, 2014 of this year, there will be 795 additional officers eligible for retirement. Along with the vacancies already being carried, this would potentially be a dearth of up to 1,300 potential vacancies our department would carry. The hiring process is not fast. It takes upwards of a year or more to complete a background investigation, attend the academy, complete field training, and become solo capable. It takes even longer to become efficient at your job. I recommend the council not exasperate our current and future manpower issues by making this dangerous, unappealing job we do even less desirable, even for those who wish to serve, by reducing pay and benefits. Give us what you promised years ago. Give us what we deserve. Don't give us lip service and turn your back on us. I believe the negotiations that were done with all the labor units were not done transparently. I believe negotiations were not done this for several reasons. Today, at the last minute, the city manager drops a report which only deals with the Phoenix Police Department, not any of their labor units, on the city council's desk. We have seen slides presented by the city and by the union that are totally contradictory. There was a report from the city council mandate about 2011, which shows we're paid under the amount of comparable agencies. Slide 5 and PLEA slide which was actually made by the city, shows a different number. And the city manager also gives a slide that shows total compensation, puts us above. Unfortunately, facts have been asked for and not given to the city manager or city council after they've been asked for it from Mr. Zerker, who was a former assistant city manager before he took this position. His math reminds me of Chevy Chase in a Saturday Night Live skit imitating President Ford. It was my understanding there would be no math in this job. So I hope that the city council will vote no on this and give us the results of the fact finding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. John Wilson, and then followed by Louis Schmidt.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Officer Wilson with Phoenix. I am probably the oldest officer that went through the academy, according to Assistant Chief Markley, when I went through this a few years ago, like 7 years. I want to say first, and I'll probably get flack for this from my fellow officers, but last week when I was watching this, I had to work, and my wife said, because we were part of this thing back 4 years ago, we went around to two of the different, or I did two of the townhouse or town board meetings, whatever you call it, and she spoke in District 6 and got quite emotional. Well, anyway, last Wednesday, she's gone now, she's out of town for work, and last Wednesday she says, "Where's the chief? Where's your chief at these meetings?" You know what? He's here tonight. And she found out through the media that he was gone because she said, "Honey, guess what? He was at a memorial last night. That's why he wasn't there." And that resonated with me, and I'm glad he's here tonight because that shows a form of caring, a form of mentorship. Despite what we may think that is, he's here, and that's important. Now, who I am, really, I was a college professor. I got my master's degree in public administration. I know a lot of people that could run a city for $100K or less that have that degree. But I got my doctorate in human services. I taught criminal justice. And I taught, and one of my favorite courses was stress management to law enforcement. And I never knew, as a probation and parole officer at the time, I never knew what it was like to suit up and go to work not knowing if I'm going to come home. And I thought, you know what? I want to become a police officer. And Phoenix got rid of the age requirement. I became one. And I became one through one of the best organizations in the country because I picked Phoenix. And I picked Phoenix for a reason. I could have gone to Tempe, I could have gone to Glendale, I could have gone to all of the surrounding, but why did I pick Phoenix? Because of the reputation, and it has integrity. And this is all about your integrity now. You made a deal with us 4 years ago. You rescinded on the deal 2 years later. I'm asking you guys now to step up to the plate, own up to it, and do the right thing by giving us what we asked for. Just do it. It's a deal's a deal. In my book, you expect integrity from us on the streets. And by the way, I want to add this to all the citizens and whoever's watching this, we are not going to walk out. We are not going to walk out because we love the citizens of this city first. And Mayor, the first time I met you, and you probably don't ever remember this, I was doing the Fiesta Parade. And you acknowledged me, and it was a nice, warm acknowledgement because, you know why? Because you respected the police. We were there for your safety and the security of that parade. And all I know is we are down personnel, and we all said this, and I'm not going to rehash all this. But here's another example. Last Friday, I'm leaving the precinct, and I'll run you by my day real quick. This morning I got up at 3:30, and I'm working out. And I will be leaving shortly to go and take care of my best friends, my 3 dogs, because they've been left home alone. I got one person I let them out today, just because I could be here tonight. Well, regardless, I'm working out. I get to my school at about 7 o'clock this morning because I'm a school resource officer. When I got done working on Friday, I left, in my POV, my private owned vehicle, and I come upon a wreck on 59th and McDowell. First on scene, it was a 962, which is an injury. I call fire. About 15 minutes later, a lieutenant shows up. We can't even get a patrol unit out there because there's nothing available. And I'm handling the wreck, and I'm driving the wrecked car out of the area because the victim was taken to the hospital. It was a hit and run. Now I'm leaving after about a half hour, 45 minutes, and guess what happens? On McDowell, not even half a block away where I was, another wreck. And that was a pregnant lady. I'm calling fire and doing this because we can't get patrol to respond. We're doing this, and I'm not bragging about this. This is what these people are doing every day, and they're doing it for us and doing it for you. So please, just do the right thing, and please, vote for us this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Louis Schmidt, did you wish to provide testimony on this item, followed by Daniel Rousseau?
Short. Again, it's just frustrating. I mean, I feel the frustrations for all our, all the employees, especially hearing the same, hearing some of the same stories from our first responders. But it's frustrating. But over and over, you hear about the waste, the mismanagement, how we throw money at projects that we don't even follow through. And it's frustrating for the public, for these employees to see this on a day-to-day basis. And that's why we're frustrated. That's why it's hard for us to trust the numbers that we're giving, because you guys approve all this stuff. You guys approve all this stuff. And like Joe Clore said sometime last year, it's malfeasance. You guys approve stuff, and then you come to a deficit, that was told by your budget director and by your finance director, and now you want to, once again, attack all the employees, help us balance the budget. You guys claim that you're proponents of the employees. I heard Councilman Nowakowski say, I want to do this, I want to do that. You have that potential to do that tonight. You have that power to do that tonight, but it takes guts, and it takes actually just taking a stand and saying, you know what, I'm not going to worry about my political campaign. You guys, like the previous officer just said, there's morals, there's ethics. Everybody's, even police officers, once they, step out of line with their ethics, they're ruined. They can't go in court and testify anymore. They're held liable. Employees are held liable. You guys have the authority, the power to do the right thing for all the community and for the employees. But it takes someone actually stepping up and not worrying about, your political ramifications. Worry about the people in the community. And again, you're putting your political agendas before the community and the people. The community is telling you, not to balance the budget on the deficit, not to balance the deficit on the employees. The community is telling you that they like their first responders. But you guys have to do the right thing. If you want to really do the right thing, then, if the audience makes a motion to do the food tax, and someone has to do it on the council has to do the right thing. Don't just sit here and say, we support you guys. You support you guys if there's no action behind it. If this is Team Phoenix, then Team Phoenix has to work together, not just do political standing. So put your political agendas aside, do the right thing, and fix this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schmidt. Daniel Rousseau, and you have one card donated to you, so if you'd like a little extra time, you can have it.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. When I came up here, of course, I was a little bit nervous about thinking about the repetition, because I didn't want to repeat what other people said, and then I realized to myself, don't be nervous. There's over 2,900 police officers, sergeants, lieutenants, commanders that are here saying the same thing, and it's not only them, but it's their families and their friends as well. My name is Daniel Rousseau, and I am a sergeant with the Phoenix Police Department. I am also a PPSLA board member. You heard from our president, Sean Matson, earlier tonight. I'm also a Phoenix resident, and I live in District 6, Mr. DeCiccio, your area of town. I shop also and spend my money in the city of Phoenix. I've been a police officer for 29 years total, and I've been with the city of Phoenix for 16 years. I've been a sergeant for 8 years. I gave up 13 years on another police department in another state to, after I was heavily recruited to come to the Phoenix Police Department. I started in the academy with the knowledge and the promise that I would be better off later in my career. Since then, pension changes and pay cuts have occurred, with more pending. I have not abused sick time. I have sacrificed vacation time with my family over and over again. I have honored contracts and agreements and my oath of office. Phoenix has been very good to me, but it's not the city I moved my family to in 1998. The promises that were made then are not being kept now. We do, as a police department, accomplish more with less. We are extremely depleted. I always ask and wonder, and people who know me know I ask this, if we do more with less, then why not pay the less more? You have heard the testimonials about being shot at and hurt, and you've heard about the many sacrifices that have been made. I hope they matter to you. I will not bore you with my own stories. Sergeants and lieutenants want you to know that the risks we take are in a way even greater, in that we are held responsible for the decisions we make. And that is unlike some politicians. I will also quote Martin Luther King, and people who know me know this is one of my favorite quotes. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. As was displayed earlier tonight, for those of you who are still here, the freedom of speech incident, not everybody is our friends. And cops know this better than most. But you, our leaders, are supposed to be our friends. And you're supposed to be friends to the employees and to the citizens of Phoenix. We would appreciate it if you start stepping up for us and speaking up for us. And just as a side note, as things have kind of gone on, I added this. Dogs on the street, somehow they tend to find my living room. And I have a lot of dogs. And they're my friends. And they're loyal to me too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pat Vint, did you wish to provide testimony on this item? You have up to 2 minutes.
Yes, I sure do. And I am Pat Vint again, but I'm looking at this chain of command here, which proven tonight that Phoenix is a dip city, disaster in progress. We've got the public at top. They should change that to victims. Then we got the mayor and council, that's 9. Then we got city manager and a deputy city manager, or assistant city manager. But we've got 2 that's already retired, so we're paying for 4 of them. Now we got 5 more deputy city managers ahead of 40 departments. And nobody has any idea how to run anything. So anyway, the biggest problem here is that you destroyed one of my best friends that I look back at now, Jerome Miller. He tried to take your orders, and according to John, he can't say he's a friend because it was a disaster what happened there. But Jerome realized a couple years ago that it wasn't worth it to even live anymore if you have to put up with the city of Phoenix, the dip city of the world. But you're going to have to start listening. You've got this chain of command here. I bet there's 90% of you have no idea what it's all about. Because you've got 40 departments after all these people that are supposed to be managers. They're not doing their job. All of these police officers that came up here to speak tonight proved it beyond any doubt that it's a disaster here. Everybody knows that a police officer with a gun is going to be your helper, your protector. I never pass a police officer without stopping and talking to them and thanking them. And a couple of them have said, you know, the problem is we're here, we're like the plague. Ladies and gentlemen walk by with them, they're little kids, and they say, see that police officer, he'll get you. That's a disaster what to do. Everybody ought to be taught and have classes, at least right here in this council chamber. Somebody should get up and say that the police officers ought to be admired. But there's always a few bad apples. And I get emails that said, you know, there's 999 disasters that destroyed the reputation of one city employee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vint. Michael Kaditz?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. I'm a 16-year veteran of the Phoenix Police Department. I live in District 6. We talk about these cuts and how they're going to affect us. And we talk about that we're down 500 officers plus right now. Talking to other officers, they say that these cuts come down, they're going to retire too. We're going to have 250 officers retire here pretty shortly. That's going to make us even more depleted. We also have civilians that help us in our daily role, and they are vital to us. I have one in particular that's very close to me and helps me out. I'm a detective with the graffiti unit and bias hate crimes unit, and she is amazing. And just today, she's venting out to me that she's going to have to retire if this thing goes through. There's others like her. There's 400 civilians that are going to do the same thing. That's how they affect us. Also losing all those officers on the street to retirement, and also we're hearing about officers that want to transfer now to other cities because they don't want to be here. I want to be here. I love this city. This is what I want to do. But that's the talk that's out there. That makes everybody else that's on the street more susceptible to injury or even death. Something that every officer hears on the radio makes our hearts drop. And we know when we hear that sound, those tones, an officer is either just shot, is in need of major assistance, or just shot at somebody. All of these are life-changing events. I coach sports too, especially in your district. I've been doing it for 15 years throughout the valley, and I love it. Three rules that I teach my kids is 1, do what's right. 2, do your best. 3, treat others how you want to be treated. Very simple rules. The big one that I want you guys to remember is do what's right. We helped you in 2010. We did what was right for the city then. We're asking you to step up and do what's right now.
This is the last call for Officer John Hobbs, serial number 5624. India 820. India 820 is 23, 200 West Beardsley. India 820 is 107. Good night, sir. You will be deeply missed. Rest in peace. Frequency's clear at 1413.
Please do the right thing and never have to hear something like that again.
Thank you for your testimony. Next is Catherine Cobor. Did you wish to testify? All right, there are other individuals who did not wish to speak but would want to make sure their opinions are registered for the record. Howard Robinson in favor of plea. Michelle Robinson in favor of plea. Sarah Robinson in favor of plea. Elaine Robinson in favor of plea. Howard Robinson in favor of plea. I only have one additional speaker according to the cards that have been presented. Joe Clerk, President of Phoenix Law Enforcement Association, and you have a significant number of cards donated time to you. Much time as you need then. President Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm going to take a little bit longer than I did last week because there are a few things I want to say. 32 years of service I just completed this year, and I got to tell you, this is probably one of the saddest days. No, this is the saddest day of my entire career with the city of Phoenix. It's kind of obvious, I think, to the casual observer that the city of Phoenix is woefully broken. When you have to spend hours at a council meeting with internal conflicts such as this, we got a problem. It's a major problem for the city of Phoenix. And like somebody said, you know, if I hear best run city in America one more time, I think I'm going to puke. It's just, that's a pretty old sign. It probably needs to be taken down if there's any left, because we got major problems. It's just unfortunate that, you know, in the twilight of my career, that this is where we're at. The other thing I want to make a comment about is, somebody had mentioned task force, putting together task force and what have you. That's government code speak for, we're going to put a committee together, but we're not really going to do anything, but we're going to make it appear like we're doing something. This is just kind of a disappointing day. It's a disappointing time for all of us. I just wanted to get that off my chest. I just don't see things getting any better around here anytime soon. Let me go directly to the reason why we're here today, and that is this contract dispute that we're having with the city. Our whole mantra on this is respect the process. We went through this process in good faith. We negotiated with the city manager. We were unable to come to an agreement or a resolution on the economic issues, although we were able to settle on many non-economic issues. We then went to the fact finder process, and we received a positive fact finder result. Frankly, I don't think anybody thought that that was going to happen. I thought that everybody assumed that we were going to not prevail, everybody would fall in line and take the cuts as fire did. But that didn't happen because of two things. Number one, we were prepared, we did our homework. If you haven't noticed yet, Will Buvadas is a pretty smart guy when it comes to numbers. He knows what he's talking about. If you also haven't noticed, when the city presents numbers, you don't know what to think of them because they change almost overnight. And I think the fact finder keyed in on some of this information or discrepancies, as well as the fact that a lot of the information wasn't forthright in its presentation as it relates to the CEP and those kinds of things. So we had a pretty sharp fact finder who listened to 2 days of testimony, 2 days of evidence, and he came to an independent conclusion that in fact the city can't afford, as it relates to police officers, to provide an increase in wages of 3.6% in the second year. 1.6% of the concession restored with a 2% wage increase on top. That's all good if you respect the process. If you don't respect the process, then what's the point? The other thing I want to say to my counterparts in labor, and I've had this discussion with them privately, for the city to think that it's appropriate at this stage of the game to believe that everybody should get the same is just not reality in this world. It's kind of akin to the Pop Warner team that everybody has to get a trophy. The fact of the matter is, in life, everybody doesn't necessarily get a trophy because things are different. If we allow the city to continue with this tactic of favored nation or Me Too clauses in our contracts, then the process is broken and not viable. Because next year or next contract, it may not be PLEA up here with a favorable ruling. It may be Unit 3 or the fire unit or whoever. And if we're going to allow this Me Too process to continue, they're going to be in a similar situation that we are today, with the city saying that they can't do anything different. I do believe that I heard the city manager say that you can do something different. I also read in the paper today that somebody on the council reported that, or stated that they thought that the police PLEA had overplayed their hand. This is not a card game, and if it is, we're playing the hand that we were dealt. We went to fact-finding, we played by the rules, we prevailed. Respect that. That's all we're asking. And I'm going to say something else. that the public may not know. In an interest to try to resolve all of this conflict and these proceedings that are clearly not good for the city, we've tried, even in this process, to make concessions as it relates to the fact finder report. We spoke with the city manager, Ed Zucker, and told him, just leave us alone. We'll forego the 1.6% concession restoration in the second year. We'll forego the 2% pay raise that the arbitrator, the independent arbitrator, said that we justly deserved. We get it. This is not an easy process for anybody. We're trying our best to do what we think is right. And now we're asking you to do what we think is right. And if you can only go to a status quo, so be it. But I think certainly cuts are significantly unfair given the fact finder report that we have. The other thing I want to talk about is why police officers feel that they've paid enough. And you've heard a lot of it tonight already. It's kind of weird that we had a couple years ago a $277 million shortfall a few years ago, and we were looking at 300 layoffs of police officers, and we took those cuts to save those layoffs, to save the officers from having to be laid off and their services not provided to the citizens. But here we are 4 years later, and we've actually taken 520 layoffs, because that's how many police officers were down. And those layoffs, those reduction in force, has a tremendous impact on the workforce of these fine men and women that go out there every night and do their job. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but like I said, you have a broke city right now. And more concerning to me is you have a beleaguered police department. You have men and women that are exhausted, they're stressed, they're under a tremendous amount of pressure, and quite frankly, they feel under attack. You've heard stories about the personal sacrifices that many of them had made. One of them being Scott Safranca, who's up here in tremendous pain because he recently was shot in the stomach. You've heard about the loss of life. And if you think that we're not still reeling emotionally from the loss of Detective Hobbs, maybe that's a little bit about what you're seeing here. But it's real, and it's real to us. I think we've paid enough. These fine men and women have paid enough. We have done our part. It's frustrating. I love our firefighters. I do. They do an excellent job. They're good people. They're also very politically influential. They've done well for themselves. I applaud them. I think they deserve what they get. But what you have to recognize is that we are different and that we do a different job. We're also different in the way that we are compensated. And it's frustrating when you, again, trying to be a good employee, a good partner with the city, and you're told to cut the overtime, cut this, eliminate this, do this, and we do it. And we've done it now for 4 years. It's frustrating when you see that the other public safety entity isn't making those sacrifices. So, as I told city manager, negotiation team for the city, that we would gladly sign for concessions if they would guarantee us some sort of a compensation model similar to fire, to where you aren't actually taking a cut, you're making money. But again, I don't begrudge them for that, but I just want you to recognize that we are different. And that is why we're asking to be treated different in this negotiation process. I call it my Sesame Street example. Of the 5 units that went to arbitration, one of them is not like the other. One of them has a positive fact finder decision. I think that should mean something when you go through the process and you prevail. If you don't recognize the process, you feel that perhaps, justice denied, and that creates a great deal of unrest. I want to say one more thing about the notion that was brought up that police officers would strike. If we were bus drivers, we'd probably be out on strike right now, no doubt. And you know what would happen? We'd get a couple $1 million awarded to our contract, just like Viola. But we're not bus drivers. We're police officers. And the one thing I do agree with the Reverend is it is a calling, and you do it for reasons other than money. So the community does not have to worry about the services of the police department, of these fine men and women tonight, because they're going to be out there willing to do violence on your behalf so that you can sleep in your comfortable bed at night. And we'll do it gladly. Because at the end of the day, the decision here that we're going to make isn't about how well or how not well you've managed the city and the circumstances. At the end of the day, this decision that you have to make is about these fine men and women that I have the distinct honor and privilege to represent. It's about them and what you think about them. I would just ask that you respect the process and protect those that protect us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Clore. Are there any other individuals who would like to testify on this item while we're still in the open hearing portion of the meeting? All right, going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. I did indicate, as was agreed to earlier, that after staff presentation, after questions by members of this council, and in some cases comments by members of this council, that we would then turn to and after the opportunity for the dozens of people who had the opportunity to speak, that we would turn to a member of the council. Councilor Williams, I'll turn it over to you. Do you have a motion?
I do, but I want to make a couple comments
Please.
first. When this whole budget process started, we were cutting so many services, everything from the senior centers to the parks, but the booking station officers and the helicopters and police are too important to this community, and the neighborhoods, the block watches, rallied and said, you absolutely cannot cut those services. You cannot do that. And as the process has gone on, which is we've never experienced before, we've never had to go through this process. It has become very apparent that the process is flawed. Budgets need to start sooner. Negotiations need to start much sooner so that we're not crunched up against these types of time frames, because I think there needs to be more dialogue in the future. And I had people at the hearings tell me, oh yes, do the food tax. But I will tell you, since then I've had just as many calls and emails saying, don't you dare. Absolutely, I don't support food tax. And I have talked to my constituents and said, taxpayers have to share some of this, absolutely. And the fact that we're putting an excise tax on the water bill, many of my constituents have complained about that. And I said, it's only fair. you have to come to the table too, and it can't be just employees. And I heard some comments tonight about me as the wife of a police officer. October 1973, my husband entered the academy. He retired after 25 years due to an injury. I will tell you that my son also is a retired police officer. He was down at the academy. He was injured at the academy, training someone that was learning defensive training. And when I said I felt, and Joe, that you'd overplayed your hand, you and I had this conversation the other day in my office. I said, when you brought somebody in to say, my husband and my whole family are affected by this. Well, that's true. But you knew it, my husband knew it, and all of you knew it. When you become an officer, it affects your family. There are some negative things that go along with being that. And as a wife and mother of a police officer, I can tell you, I knew every time you walked out the door. It might be the last time I talked to you. I do that every friggin' day. But you learn to cope with it. My kids were bullied at school because of it. But for you to act like I never support you is very hurtful to me, because I have supported you since I've been in this office. I've come through on some serious issues for you. And to act like I've never supported you at all, I think is wrong. But I think in this context, I have to look at the whole situation. I think that we have to look at all of our employees. And we have to make choices. I just feel really strongly that, I mean, I would love to give all employees a raise. And I think we've recognized through this process that we have to make changes in how we do business, not only internally as a council, but I think the departments. And we recognize that. We've talked about task forces, but I will tell you, we seriously want to have a task force that is action, that can make decisions, that can really change the way we proceed and we develop new policy, way we make financial decisions. I think all of that has to be looked at, because the old ways don't work anymore. It's a new world. Times have changed, and we have got to catch up to that and change accordingly. But I just feel very strongly, to me, more money won't make you safer. More officers will. And I have to make a choice. I say that I want to put the resources, if we have extra dollars, into hiring additional police officers. And so I do have a motion I'm going to put on the table, but I want to tell the city manager that I am very serious about this, and I think that there are some further cuts that we can make, some revisions that we can do, that we could hire officers sooner than next spring. I think we need to get it started. And the comment I heard about we're delaying hiring those officers that were approved for that grant, it better not be so. And we have a second grant that we are applying for right now for additional officers. I hope when that's approved, because I think it will be, because I visited the Justice Department and lobbied for it last month, and they sounded very positive, that be expedited. When you have this type of officers spread so thinly that when they have to respond to an emergency, there's areas and neighborhoods left without any officers, that's unacceptable. So I think that absolutely has to be a top priority. So, Mayor, I'll go to the motion. Pursuant to Phoenix Code, City Codes, Section 2-219, I hereby move that the following terms and conditions of employment be imposed by the City Council. The terms and conditions of the 2012-2014 MOU as modified by tentative agreements 1 through 11 as signed by the parties. Eliminate all pension spiking provisions from the 2012-2014 MOU between PLEA, Unit 4, and the city, and include the value of the savings as a credit toward concessions. Continue the current 1.6 economic concessions as set forth in 2012-2014 Memorandum of Understanding between PLEA, Unit 4, and the city. additional economic concessions of 1.6% in fiscal year 2014-2015 and 0.9% in fiscal year 2015-2016 as proposed by city management today. If on or before May 20th, 2014, PLEA ratifies the terms and conditions of employment as imposed by the council today, the city manager is authorized to enter into an MOU with PLEA for fiscal years 2014-15 and 2015-16 that is in accordance with the terms and conditions imposed by the council. This is the same as the other employees, but with the emphasis that we expect you to start hiring officers as soon as possible.
I think that's the motion on the